Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my videos where I show you how to make delicious treats at home. Today I have for you a praline chocolate pie that I've made from scratch. It's a rich chocolate and nut taste and can be modified as desired. Stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to my channel. So as every tart or pie recipe, we need to start with the crust, and for that you will need a pinch of salt, 1 egg, 225 grams of flour, 125 grams of soft butter, 40 grams of almond powder, and finally 100 grams of sugar. So start by putting the soft butter in a stand mixer with the paddle attachment and start mixing it on a slow speed until it's looking creamy and smooth. Then you want to add in the sugar and mix until fully incorporated. Next, you can crack 1 whole egg and add it to the mixture. It's best that your egg be at room temperature and not straight from the fridge, so not to alter the consistency of the creamy butter. Before pouring it, you can give a bowl a bit of a scrape and then set it on medium until the egg is combined with the mixture. If you're seeing some lumps on this stage, don't worry too much about it. Just add in the almond powder and they will dissolve. After that, you can mix in the salt and the flour. You don't actually need to sieve the flour here, as we are going for a dough and not a cake or a mousse. Once all the flour is incorporated, you need to stop the stand mixer immediately to avoid overmixing. Then, using a dough scraper, collect the crust and cover it in some cling wrap. We avoid overmixing the crust so that the pie doesn't shrink when baking. So now you can let the crust cool for an hour, and the thinner the layer is, the faster it will set. You can also make this a day before. Next up is the homemade praline paste, and for this you will need 90 grams of almonds, 90 grams of hazelnuts, and 130 grams of sugar. First off, we want to roast the almonds and hazelnuts, so you can place those on a tray and then into the oven at 150 degrees C or 300 F for approximately 15 minutes. In the meantime, you need to prepare the caramel, so start by pouring a bit of sugar on a pot on a medium heat and then add it little by little to avoid burning. You need to time this well and add in the nuts on the melted sugar while they're straight out of the oven. This helps avoid recrystallizing the sugar. While making the caramel, you can use a heat-proof spatula to stir lightly the sugar. So once the nuts are entirely covered in caramel, you can spread that over a silicone mat and let cool completely at room temperature. Once the nuts are cool to the touch, you can break them down with your hands and place the bits into a chopper or a mixer. You need to make sure, however, that your chopper is strong enough to take these harder bits. So basically, you need to mix the caramel and nuts until you get a pliable paste. Every now and then you can scrape the edges of the chopper. This might take a while depending on your chopper, but keep going. Once the paste is a bit shiny and pliable to the touch, that's when you know you're done. I will be using a piping bag to apply this into the pie, but a spoon or a palette knife could do as well. So set the praline paste aside at room temperature and let's go back to the chilled crust. So after it has cooled down, you can remove the cling wrap from the crust dough. You can cut out a few portions of it first and then set them aside. They will be used later on for decoration. So flour your work surface generously and then the rolling pin as well. And roll the dough out while flipping it every now and then to make sure it's not sticking. We are looking for a thickness of approximately 3 millimeters at the end, so you can add some flour every now and then if needed. So using your tart ring, check if the crust is enough for it, and then using a rolling pin you can move that around into the ring. This is actually the technical part of the recipe because the crust might break at this stage. If that happens, don't worry too much about it, just assemble it back together using your fingers. So make sure the crust is well lined on the ring, then cut off the excess using a sharp knife going outwards. You can place the tart in the freezer for 30 minutes or until frozen. Next up, we are going to dunk the crust to ensure an even baking, so covering the crust with some parchment paper, place some ceramic beans or some rice inside the crust, then bake at 170 degrees C or 340 F for 15 to 20 minutes. In the meantime, we'll be making some egg wash to apply on the crust. All you need for this is some egg yolk and a tablespoon of heavy cream. So go ahead and mix those two together, either with a brush or a small whisk, and set that aside. It is now time to check on that crust and take it out of the oven. Remove the parchment paper and beans and grab a pastry brush to apply the egg wash. The egg wash here has two purposes. The first is to give a nice golden color to the crust, and the second is to shelter it from humidity. So place that back into the oven for approximately 10 minutes or until golden brown. Once the crust is fully baked, set it aside and let it cool at room temperature. So remember those bits of dough we saved up? So you want to grab the first one and add 1 or 2 teaspoons of cocoa butter to it, then incorporate that using your hands into the dough. If it feels a bit moist and hot at this stage, simply pop it back in the fridge for a few minutes before spreading it. You can grab another bit of dough and roll it on a floured surface. Using this dough, I will be cutting some small flowers to decorate the finished pie. It is optional, of course, but I think these flowers definitely add a beautiful look on the pie. You can place the cut flowers on a plate and do the same with the chocolate dough. The idea is to alternate between white and brown flowers on top. So these flowers need to be frozen before we can bake them for approximately 5 minutes at 170 degrees C or 340 F. Set those aside and let's get the chocolate ganache ready. So for this chocolate ganache, we are going to need to melt 250 grams of dark chocolate, of your choosing of course. I prefer using a double boiler for a more even melting. And while the chocolate melts, you can grab the praline paste we've prepared earlier, as well as the crust that has been cooling down. And the idea here is to apply a layer of praline paste onto the crust. I am using a piping bag, but a spatula will also do. Make sure the praline layer is even all throughout the crust, and you can actually make this as thick or as thin as you prefer. So you want to check back on the chocolate to see if it's melted and give it a little stir. Once it's all melted down, you can add in a pinch of salt and the first batch of heavy cream. The heavy cream you can warm up in the microwave or over a stove. It doesn't actually need to be boiling hot, just a warm temperature will do. So you want to do this in 3 or 4 batches to mix the ingredients well together and control them. When the ganache becomes shiny, that's when you know it's done. You can actually mix this using a whisk as well, but I find that a spatula gives a better result and incorporates less air bubbles. You can obviously also add the cream all at once, but I personally prefer to do this in batches. You can then tap your container on the table to remove air bubbles. Then pour the ganache into a tall container or something that will help you pour it over the crust. Make sure you don't pour the whole thing all at once, but rather little by little until you fill the pie. You can move the crust a bit to spread the ganache and make sure it's even all the way. You can also tap a little bit to remove any remaining air bubbles. And that's it! Now all we have to do is let the chocolate set in the fridge for at least 3 hours. We need to make sure it's well set before moving on to decoration. So now that the chocolate ganache has completely set, you can grab those cute flowers we've made earlier and place them on top of the ganache. I am going here for a crescent shape, but you can customize the finish as you prefer. I find it best to alternate between colors to get a good contrast on the end product. There you go guys, this is the finished praline chocolate pie. If your room temperature isn't too hot, this can actually be stored at room temperature. In the summertime, however, it's best to keep it in the fridge. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. If you make this recipe, be sure to share the result with me over on Instagram. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you're the first to see my next recipes. See you next week, and as always, bon appetit!